Hey guys, Boomer here. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and talk to you about the biblical kinds of love. I've heard several attempts to try and explain love as as it relates to the Christian life, and it all seems to center around this emotional type of love. Because to be honest with you, in the English language, and if you read the Bible and your only understanding is what's called a pastoral view of Scripture, where you're trying to understand ancient events and things from a modern perspective, you lose an awful lot. And for us in the English language, love is love is love is love. It's all the same word. And I can say to you, I love hot dogs. And then I can turn around and say to you, well, I love my wife. Now, obviously, I don't love my wife in the same way I love hot dogs, but the context in which that word is used will kind of define what we mean. But the Greek is a much more precise language, and they have several different words for love, and each one is a different kind of love. And if we are to understand the kind of love that Christians are called to biblically, we really need to understand that kind of love. For example, when Jesus says, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, you are to love one another. By this shall all men know you are my disciples, if you have love one for another." Well, what kind of love is that? I mean, how is it possible for me to love my enemy if that love is the emotion love? Because by and large, we cannot control our emotions, can we? So not all love is the same, especially in the Greek language where they have different words. For example, storge is a love in the Greek, and it's a familial kind of love. I think of the prodigal son, the wasteful son. The father had a storge kind of love for his son, like a father loves his children or a mother loves her children. It's a familial kind of love. And I've written a couple down. Here's one that some of you may be familiar with, Philia or Philos. That is a brotherly kind of love. Okay, if you think about Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. So that's a brotherly kind of love. If I say to my buddy, "Man, I love you, brother," well, that's a Philos kind of love, Philia kind of love. Then there is Eros. Okay? This is the erotic kind of love. The kind of love you might see between a husband and a wife. Okay? Erotic kind of love. But the one that Jesus was talking about is called, well, you've heard it called unconditional love, perfect love. But that would be agape love. So what is agape love? All of the other loves have an emotional component to them. By and large, they are emotional. Eros and Philos and all that. Agape is an act of the will rather than the emotion. Now, the other emotional types of love may follow an act of agape love, and often they do. But agape is more of a verb than it is a noun. So when Jesus says, "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, love one another," it is agape love. So you need to understand what kind of a love he's talking about. It's not a warm, fuzzy, emotional kind of love. It's an act of the will. And the best example that I can think of in Scripture is the Good Samaritan. Was coming down, fell among thieves who robbed him, beat him, stripped him, left him naked. And a priest and a Levite came by and saw him and passed by on the other side. And there have been many explanations as to why they did that. The one I heard that I love the most, and I mean no offense by this, but the priest and the Levite passed by on the other side because they saw he had already been robbed. Only kidding. But they did pass by on the other side. But along comes a Samaritan who knew that that Jew would have hated him because he was a Samaritan. He was a half-breed. Okay? And still, he showed agape, which is also translated many times as compassion. He had compassion. So when Paul says, To esteem others as better than yourself, that's agape love. You want the best for another person, which is what this Good Samaritan did. So when we, as followers of Christ, try and express that love one for another, it's esteeming others as better than ourselves, which is what Christ did when he condescended and became a human. It's not an emotional type of love, though that may follow, like my brothers in church or something. I have a phileo kind of love for them, but that's an emotion. Agape is an action. So that's the biggest difference I think we need to make here. So anyway, hope that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I'll do my best to answer. Until then, see you next time. Bye for now.